Today, I'm joined by Laura Truesdale of Brushstrokes Courses to have a conversation about creative flow. Welcome, Laura.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining me. Would you like to start just by introducing yourself and what brushstroke? Oh my goodness, I can't speak already. And what Brushstrokes Courses is?
Yes, not a problem. So my name is Laura. I used to be a secondary school teacher for my sins, and I now run an online teaching business called Brushstrokes Courses. It originally started in the community in January 2020, but of course it didn't last long in the community in 2020. So I moved online during lockdown because originally I thought, no, I'm not going to teach online. It's not my bag. And how can I connect with people? How can you sort of tap into people and how they're feeling? But I did it, and actually I'm glad I did. It seemed to be a good lifeline for a lot of people at home, and now I'm hopefully looking back at moving back into the community.
Yeah, as we gradually sort of opening up. I mean, once this airs, we should hopefully be very open and everybody out and about and doing things. So yeah. So today we're gonna have a bit of a conversation about creative flow. So I'm really interested to hear what you're going to say. I've been getting really quite excited about this. I've been kind of having a little look about on your website, but trying not to absorb too much because I'm much rather have the conversation and hear it from you. So you've talked a little bit about its art. So how does creating works of art for you, how does that fit into therapeutic practice?
So for me, I think my first ever spiritual inquiry was when I asked my mum what to do after GCSE. I said, what GCSEs do I pick? What do I do after this? And she said to me, choose what you enjoy. Now, for me, I assumed that I must enjoy art because I didn't know where time went. Time just disappeared, everything disappeared, teenage angst disappeared, and I didn't quite know what happened to it. And I thought, well, that must be enjoyment. Now, looking back on it, I'm like, well, that was my first experience of thinking about what is flow and where does that time go and what is that? Is that enjoyment or is it something else? And so because of this, I sort of pursued art because I kept thinking, well, nothing else in my life gave me that same sense of being. Nothing else removed time in the same way. So I kept going with it. And then I found when I was teaching it as well, I could put people in the same space that I found. And, it's not for everyone. I think there are all different types of activities which instill this flow, whether it's running or whether it's a form of meditation or whether it's motorbike racing, it could be anything.
Yeah.
And I think for some people like myself, we just get into this state of flow. So I became really interested in it. And there's a fantastic book by a Hungarian author which is called Flow, and I'd love to pronounce his name. I really would.
I can put a link into the description if that's going to help people.
His first name is Mihaly, and his last name I'm not going to attempt for respect to the Hungarian people. But he says, flow is a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience is so enjoyable that people will continue to do it, even at a great cost for the sheer sake of doing it. And I think he's describing for me this state which I get into when I'm doing art. And it is a healing state, people love it. We just keep doing it. And it's a way of expressing our internal battles. It's a way of stilling the mind and stilling that movement of thought.
I mean, at the beginning of lockdown, my husband's a tattoo artist, so there's lots of art stuff in our house, but it's not something I've kind of really done because to me, I have no artistic talent. But last year, I got into my head that I was going to do like energy healing paintings, despite having no skill in painting at all, and did nothing. I did nothing with it. And towards the end of last year, I just suddenly decided that, oh, I'm going to get the paint out and play.
Yes.
And that's what I did. I did some meditation and I painted. Now, they do look like a child has painted them. And I'm okay with that for me to look at them.
You seem to be Tate Modern, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm okay with that because it's like you say, there was something in that process of just exploring, and it's no one knows this actually in my real life, so I'm putting it out in the world. And I gave them all little names as well because they're like I felt very much like it was almost channeling. So is that what you would connect as flow?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, if you got into a space that, and this is it, it's like, I think for me, so I went and spent some time in ashrams in the Himalayas and started thinking about this idea of creative flow and meditation. And I think it's quite similar. You know, you start off with art, you start off learning art, and it's annoying, it's frustrating, it doesn't go how you want to, and you don't quite have the skills yet, or if you can't get into a flow of it, it doesn't work, and you just get annoyed. However, and it's the same with meditation. I think, you know, you start off with meditation, you're itchy, you're bored, you're thinking about how you're going to decorate your meditation room at home. It's, you know, it's a difficult space to get into. But the same with art. Once you get tapped into that flow with art, or once you kind of release that battle with the ego in meditation, you enter a different space and you produce something, you know, whether it's just that stilling of thought in meditation where you don't produce anything, you just enter it, or with art you can kind of use it as a tool, I think, to enter that, and then something comes out of you and it's amazing. And, you know, some people produce work which emote something. And as we've said, you know, you go to any contemporary art gallery, you'll see these abstract paintings. And I think what makes it the difference between just a load of paint on a canvas is the state the artist was in when they did that. And it can evoke something and express something. And it's almost like this documentation of the state this person was in when they produced this, and it's almost like a physical representation, I think, of their sort of meditative mind when everything was stilled and then this happened.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never looked at art that way. I've never thought about art that way, and it was just sort of, you know, starting to dabble, and then coming across you, and as I came across you, I was like, yeah, that little thing that whatever it was that I saw, and kind of went, oh, yes, that sounds so interesting. Like, and I need to hear more about this because it's yeah, for me, art has always been something other people do, something that, you know, there's a technical skill that people spend years and years and years learning. And I don't have the patience to spend years and years and years learning. There's other things that I'm interested in that are priority. So the idea that it can be something else is so fascinating to me, and it ties in so well with that sort of self-care, and that, you know, like meditation and all of those things that we've talked about. So I guess your students have like therapeutic experiences, and they use it in that way. How is it used in that way?
Well, it's like, you know, I have one student who, when she started one of my courses in lockdown, she was ringing me up in the first week every other day saying, I can't do this. I just can't. I just, you know, I can't. I'm going to be awful. Everyone's going to be better than me. It's just going to be, do you know what? Before this gets any further, I'm out. And each time I had to say to her, do you know what? Honestly, I hand on heart believe there is no such thing as a good artist or a bad artist. There's just some people who've had more practice than others and come to it with a different set of experiences, and that's it. So I said, you can't compare yourself because everybody is coming with a different set of experiences and practice and history. You are doing your journey. Let's focus on you. And so so I managed to convince, I'm not quite sure how, but she kept coming. And the first piece of work she did, you could see there was a lot of hesitation. She still wasn't sure. She sent me another sort of phone call saying, oh, everyone's so much better than me. And I had to say, no, just keep going, just keep doing you. Anyway, I then had a friend of hers got in touch with me and said, what have you done to this woman? She's changed. She went from being this very insecure, upset type person, and she even said it to me afterwards, said she's happier. She said, this course has done so good for my mental health. It's done so much good. And she was happy. She'd got out of that sort of dark, nervous hole she was in. She felt she could express herself. And her work improved massively. It's amazing. Like, if you ever go on my social media sites, at the end of a course, I put everybody's work, and I call them their little gallery exhibition spaces.
Beautiful.
And I put them in a line from week 1 all the way to week 6. And her improvement was just mind-blowing. It was incredible. And not much had changed. It was her. It was her confidence. It was her feeling like she could let go and just do. And all I did was teach her some skills. I just taught her some, said, if you do these things, then your work will get better. But it's not just about that. It's not just about the skill. It was something else happened to her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing that it is it's a therapeutic process. It's that it's more than just, if you do step 1, 2, 3 to improve your art. It feels like it's so much deeper than that, in that people are tapping into self-worth, self-esteem, self-belief, and self-expression. And those things, they're all self-care, aren't they? It's recognizing that you don't have to be perfect at something to get enjoyment from it, and doing what you enjoy feeds back into, I mean, I'm all for like joy. Just follow your joy. If you enjoy something in life and it's not damaging to you or other people, like, go for it. So yeah, it sounds such a growth experience through learning a new skill, but more than that.
Yeah. And I think it is. And I think it's not for everybody, I think, I also have people in my course whose work has just got better and they're happy with that. And that's why they come. And that's great. I'm not saying that there's any particular reason you have to do art. I mean, it's all personal. But for some people, I have just noticed that it seems to have a more profound effect on them.
Yeah.
It's not just about the physical object at the end.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating to me, because, as I said, I think that was how I got into art. I was just like, what is this space? I don't know. Let's call it enjoyment.
Yeah, that's such a good question, though, isn't it? Because as a society, we do a lot of things that we are supposed to do. We do a lot of things to be busy. We do a lot of things to be productive. A lot of things that everybody else is doing, so we need to be doing it. So what a useful question to ask yourself, like, what is this that I'm experiencing in this moment? And I guess it's okay whatever the answer is. If you're doing art for the sake of doing, I want to produce a picture that I enjoy, or whatever it is that I want to look at, I want to hang on my wall, that's valid. Absolutely. But of course, for me, and the process that I'm interested in, and like the lens of therapy, I started looking around at art, and how do I get better at art if I decide to make that commitment to myself? And that's what reached out and touched me a little bit more about what I saw of yours, is that there's this there is this therapeutic process there is this, I don't even know what it is. I can't remember what it is that I saw, because I think I reached out to you. I don't know what it is that I saw that I was like, yes, absolutely, I need to connect with this person and have a conversation, because it just seems so much more than just, not just art, but than learning the skills of how to draw better. I've forgotten where I'm going with my point. Well, just that it's that therapy. So it can be learning a skill, but learning more about who you are within that. Definitely. And why you're choosing to do it.
100%. And I think, it's like the first, when I spent that time in Ash, when I started making these connections in my brain about, because before, for me, I did art. I was an art teacher, and that's what I did. And it was never more than that. And it wasn't until I went and spent this time in these ashrams and have this incredible teacher in the UK. And and if you look at the sort of the most ancient recording of yoga is Patanjali's The Yoga Sutras, and one of the first things is this paragraph, and it says yoga's chitta vritti nirodha, and it's yoga is the stilling of the movement of thought. That's it. That's what it is. But the stretching kind of just helps you get there, because you focus on your body and you think, okay, I'm moving this arm. What does this arm feel like? I'm going to move this leg. How does this leg feel? Where is that in comparison to my arm? And it just starts that process of stilling that movement of thought, so that when you sit down for meditation, you can get there. And for me, I think art's quite similar, or like driving a car, you kind of like do you can do these skills, you can do these steps, you can do a line here, you can use a brush like this, you can use this color. And these are the sort of set of skills which will just allow you to create. And it's like all like driving, it's like you put your gear here, you do your clutch and your brake, and then before you know it, you just start driving without thinking about it. Or playing piano, you have to learn left hand, right hand, you clunk away at both, and something happens which brings it all together. And then you stop thinking about what the hands are doing, and you just enter into that space. And it's that space which I'm interested in. And I think in that kind of, yogi way, we question everything. You question everything. You just say, what is it? Oh, I don't know. Oh, I better play around more with that. Is it hurting anyone? No. Is it hurting me? No, I quite enjoy it. Okay, I'm just going to keep doing this and questioning it and see what happens.
That curious questioning and treating it like with loving kindness, sort of not throwing judgment on yourself. And it's a beautiful space to be in, isn't it? To be able to kind of be kind to yourself, notice what is going on internally, and what is like for me, it's like that joy, that igniting your soul, and kind of really kind of getting into like, I do these things, like, so when I'm doing this thing, am I enjoying this thing? What's my motivation behind this thing?
Yes.
What's I don't know, maybe I'm not, am I understanding you, or in what you think?
I think you are. Definitely. I think
that's what I think it is. It's that space. It is that space of, I want to say bliss, but that sounds really cheesy. But that, do you know what I mean? That space of calm,
self-inquiry as well. I think, but in a safe space, because you're just painting. Like you're just drawing, you're just painting, it's fine, and you can do that, and it's okay, and it's enjoyable, and it's great to do that. And then whilst you're there, you kind of, everything is just stilled, and you can just get lost in it. And I think it's that, as I said, when time disappears, it's like, if I'm doing a drawing, hours disappear. I will look at the time and say, okay, it's this time, and I start drawing or painting, and they just slip by. I couldn't even tell you what I'm thinking about whilst doing it. All my human needs disappear. I forget to drink. I don't go to the loo. I don't, eat. I just go into this space. And then afterwards, and then I think what's been fascinating for me is now when I'm in that space to then question that and go, oh, what is this space? Maybe I'm disrupting the flow. I'm not sure. I'm still playing, but
and that's the key though, isn't it? It's that inquiry, that playfulness, that for me is the space where we learn. That's the key thing of tapping into our own intuition, our inner voice. I very much believe that no matter where we are in our life's journey, we have the answers. We just sometimes need a bit of support to tap into what that answer is. So if going and speaking to a therapist isn't for you, maybe doing some art is going to help you tap into that creative flow space where you can listen to your inner voice and actually be kind of recognizing, okay, this is what's going on for me. This is my need. This isn't what everyone around me needs. This is my need. This is my thing that is important. And if you get a beautiful drawing at the end of it, bonus.
Yeah, right. And I just think it's just so important to be able to recognize those activities that bring us there. Whether that is painting or music or running or something which is a form of self-development and makes you happy but doesn't hurt anyone else, that you can just do and enter that space. And then also, you have that space, but then I think there is also, the sort of art as therapy side to it, where you do often then produce something at the end. And that thing is an expression of how you're feeling. And then sometimes I think just getting that external or that internal problem onto an external page is in itself therapeutic, because you've got it out. It's on a page. It's now physical and you can look at it. It's easier to look rather than look inside sometimes and go, oh, yeah, I see that now. I can see how I'm feeling that. I can see my journey from that. It's also, and then you, as well as a pretty picture, or maybe it's not pretty, that's just fine as well. You produce something. It's like I've got that out. Done.
It's, I mean, I suppose it's similar to that kind of people who enjoy journaling. It's taking that stuff that's inside, putting it outside, so you almost can put it down for a minute, and then you can come back to it and reflect on it, and notice the change as things go on. And as you say, with the art, it's you're noticing the change with your technique, as well as, I guess, the things that you're creating and the emotion that creation evokes when you go back to it. Because for me, like art as a motive, it's supposed to create that, you used to take the children to art galleries. My daughter really used to like going to art galleries when she was younger. I don't know if she'll remember that. And it's that kind of like, you get feelings from things, and not everyone has the same interpretation or the same emotion evoked or the same thought about it. I know nothing about technique. I just look at stuff and it's like, I like the colors, or that feels a bit oof to me. There's like, it very much is that kind of like, it's beautiful, but I don't know, it seems sad, or it feels like, oh, there's something not like okay with this image, like, or and there's something.
And that in itself is interesting, like when I did my art degree, it was very much taught towards, if you don't like something, that's interesting in itself. Why don't you like it? What is it that's upsetting you? What is it that's annoying you?
With all life, we view things through the lens of our own experience. So what the artist has created, again, me as just like, this is my thoughts, what the artist has created and their intention behind it, and what you interpret can be miles apart, because you are viewing through your own lens, and you're bringing your experience, your judgments, your space mindset that you're in at that time. Like my little things that I've created sit up on my desk up in our room, and when I go in there, I kind of look at them and it's like, oh, like You know, I try to
Ooh.
be kind to myself, and I kind of look at them. There was one I did that is all just shadows. It just naturally, that's how it came out. And every time I look at it, I notice a different detail. And I just think there's something
Mm.
really like interesting in that we can have a thing in front of us, and until we go away from it and come back and look at it, we don't necessarily see what's things that are in it.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And also, I mean, like you were saying that you know, you go with your daughter. I think kids love art. Absolutely love it. You know, you give any art something messy and to have fun with, and they just get lost in it. They love it. And I think we can sometimes forget that, you know, kids are humans, adults are humans. Funnily enough,
Yeah.
we might like the same things.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, I think from having taught teenagers as well, and everybody loves their art class. You know, yes, it is a bit of a DOS lesson, but also it's because kids are actually encouraged to sit and do something fun. We're not saying remember these things so I
Yeah.
can test you on your memory later. And if you have a good memory, therefore you're an A-level student.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
saying no. Let's just do something which you're going to enjoy and get something out of, which is just so important because kids love it. And really,
yeah, and it's
more
a channel
important than that.
well, enjoyment, exactly. And for me, it's a channel of communication as well. When I worked as a counsellor and I worked in a youth project, some of the other people have used like art as a tool in that way, to
Yes.
enable people to, you know, like communicate their inner worlds. If you don't have the words, if you can throw some paint on a piece of paper and then use that to describe, I think that's what a valuable tool. What an amazing
Yes,
way to be able to kind of tap into, like we said, tap into
definitely.
yourself.
Definitely. So I used to run art classes at a ladies' halfway probation hostel and also a drug and alcohol centre. And it was the same thing, you know, where you can have these people who are having horrible times and in really dark spaces, and they come into a room and you just put some paper and paint out and you just watch them transform. They turn into that child. They turned into just doing it and just getting lost in this process of making something. And whether for them it's about the object at the end, which serves as that therapeutic tool, brilliant. If it's just the process that is all they need, then that's great too. And you know, I'm not kind of coming here and saying, well, I think that it's just one big spiritual journey and that's it. That's not the case.
No, it's just a part of what makes up what you do.
People come to things for so many different reasons. You know, people go to yoga for different reasons. Some, like I went to yoga initially because I had back problems. Some people go to yoga because they want to be flexible. But there's you know, that's just the tip of a huge iceberg. But whatever it is, people have come into this space and you can kind of then drip feed and show them there's this whole other thing going on here. There's a whole other structure if you're interested. If you just want to stretch, and that's perfectly fine. If you just want to come here because that helps your back, brilliant. You know, there's no problem with that. And the same with my teaching. You know, if somebody wants to come because they want to draw a better portrait, brilliant. I can help them with that. It's not a problem. If that's what's going to do it for them, let's go on that journey. It's not a problem. But I have just noticed that for me, as I said, I got into art because there was something about the space which I found interesting, and I've just noticed other people coming to me for art, they get something more out of it than I'm not doing it. And they say, oh, thank you for doing this, you know, I'm feeling so much happier. And I think, I just taught you some skills. But
it sounds
I
like
did nothing.
Yeah, it sounds like though, because you've got that curiosity and that open mind and that willingness to share, that people who are open to that journey are getting that extra level of fulfillment, learning, knowledge. I don't quite know what the word, like I don't quite know what they're just getting that extra connection to their process.
Well,
and
Sorry, you go.
No, that's it. That's fine. It's finished.
I was going there's another, he's a teacher. He's called Ken Robinson, and he looks at the philosophy of teaching, and he has these amazing YouTube videos. He very sadly passed away last year, but he has some great videos, and I originally got into him through teaching because he talks about the paradigm of teaching and why it's such a weird concept in the West that we're using this Victorian system to teach our kids. And he has a lot of interesting things to say about that. But he also has a book called The Element, and it's talking about the same thing as the state of flow. It's, everybody has their element, and whether that's, Sir Paul McCartney in Liverpool discovering a guitar and finding that he just loved it and making that his passion, or whether he has a great story about a little girl who was taken for therapy because she couldn't sit still, and the therapist said, she's a dancer, send her to dance school, and then she became one of the most world's famous ballet dancers. Everybody has that thing, that element, that activity which gets them in the state of flow and they love. And I think our sort of busy capitalist world makes us so busy we don't get time to go into that state. And so I think for me, I don't know about you as well, but I find, as somebody who is a teacher, I want to provide these spaces so that if art is their thing, have this space, I will make this space for you, and you can go into your flow, your activity, your element, whatever you want to call it, that brings you stillness and joy.
Yeah. I mean, I think like for me, like creating the podcasts is a part of that process for me, because I love knowledge and information and empowering other people in accessing that, and sort of be like, genuinely, when I say, I want people to find they're happy, whatever that is. And I know that sounds really kind of airy fairy and like, oh, it's not that easy, but like I really do believe that we all have this thing that ignites our soul, and that is one of the most important things about being a human being. We weren't all put on this earth just to get jobs and like plug away at doing something for money. There is more to the human experience, and it's great if you've got a job that you enjoy doing and you get paid loads of money for it, that's brilliant, but I'm sure there's other things that make you come alive. So like I'm loving this process of connecting with people, and being and learning things and making connections in my own mind about, I'd not thought about that, or I had thought about that, but not in that way. And if just one person listens to an episode and goes away with, oh yeah, that might be for me, like I feel fulfilled in that, like that. That's my jam. Like that is my thing.
Definitely.
So it's that I think that's part of my creative flow, because I know I find it much more difficult to produce something for an unknown thing just for the sake of it existing. So if I want to write a course, I need to have someone around me that is interested in learning the thing that I want to teach. Like I can't, I genuinely really struggle. Like I've got all this information in my head, I can't put it out on paper unless there's a person that is going to benefit from it.
I'm exactly the same.
Yay, that's so interesting.
There's a reason why I teach it. Like I found this when I did my art degree. So I really struggled with my art degree. And, I started then running these art workshops instead. Out of sort of pure frustration, I ended up saying, I'm going to volunteer at the local drug and alcohol centre and give them art, because I was doing it myself. But something about sharing it with others is what did it for me. I can't tell you why, but it's a similar thing you were saying. And then I found for me school teaching frustrated me because you have all these systems and boxes.
I have lots of opinions about the school system that I won't go into this week.
Me too.
Maybe that's another podcast for another week.
Separate one. But yeah, and I would get frustrated that it was stopping me from actually getting students into this flow, and actually it was stopping that enjoyment of the subject. So that, and my problem with authority, but again, that's another podcast.
Yeah. It's like a running theme, I think.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the people that I come into contact with are little rebels.
Yeah, and I just kind of thought, do you know what? I need to do this on my own terms, I think, because it was making me miserable. It was making me frustrated and upset and tired, because I was just working tirelessly trying to make art enjoyable for others, whilst with a load of red tape and boundaries. And and it was making me miserable. So I thought, do you know what? I need to teach art on my own terms. I want to put student learning and wellness and fun back at the center of every class. And that's kind of like my business ethos. So every time I'm making a decision at the moment, I'm trying to work out how I can grow it, how I can expand it, how I can move it into the community. And every decision goes for me back to, is this best for the student? Is the student going to enjoy this? Is this going to impact their experience? And if it is, it goes. And if it's going to help it, or if I can make a decision and it still benefits the student, and I think we'll still keep that same experience, then I'll keep, then brilliant. I'll use that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that sounds beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's probably why I wanted to connect with you, because I think that's the sense that I got, that it's you have a heart-led business, that you are about putting the client first, as I would say, and it's their experience that also gets you into your creative flow space, and fulfills you as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I decided, so basically I left teaching and I went and sat in the Himalayas for a few months, getting up at 5:30 in the morning with a gong in the cold. I don't know why. I just thought it just seemed like the right thing to do. And I came back and I turned my life upside down. And essentially what I learned whilst I was there was, what was going to make me happy was working with other people in my local community. And I'd been trying to work out a way of doing that. And I thought, do you know what? Well, annoyingly, my skill is art. It's not going to make me much money. And it's maybe not what other people had in mind for me, but it is just my skill. I just need to accept it and say, do you know what? This is just my thing. And just share it with others. And if other people also want to share some art with me, that's great. And I decided that to do that would make me happy. And it was, it's the only thing I can do.
Oh, well, I think your students, I think they're really lucky that they get that experience with you, because I can hear the passion that you have about what you do, and for me that's the thing, isn't it? Taking something that you love and sharing it with other people who also are interested in it. Like what more is there to life?
Exactly, sharing knowledge. And I love it too. I like gaining knowledge and then sharing it, and then if it works for people, great. If it doesn't, that's fine.
Because there's a million and one different ways of doing these things out there. So find what works for you.
It's like some people, they come to art because they want that social interaction. They want to come and have a coffee morning and do something nice and go home again. And that's wonderful. That's great. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I'll always try and include that where I can. However, I'm like, well, I want to teach. I want to do other things. I want to make it more interactive rather than a passive activity. But there's nothing wrong with it being a passive activity either. It's, everybody comes to different things for different reasons. And then as long as I think I know why I'm doing something, I think other people who are looking for that thing will find me. And if they come and it's my way of working is not their thing, that's not a problem, and I know plenty of good art franchises who will do art in a coffee morning, who are wonderful, and I can send them that way. That's fine.
Brilliant. Well, I'm just sort of noticed the time, so it's kind of thinking if that feels all right for you, we'll kind of bring stuff to a close now. And just on the back of what you've said, if anyone is interested in contacting with you, all your links are going to be in the description, and they should be able to find you. I do also now have a Facebook page, which is Conversations with Sarah podcast. So your podcast will be out on there as well, with all the links to find you. So if people are listening and they want to find you, they're absolutely going to be able to.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for being my guest today. I've really enjoyed speaking to you and kind of connecting into what I feel like creative flow is for me.
Yeah, and thank you so much for giving me this space and this platform to discuss this with you as well. I love I've been following your podcast. You've got so many interesting people, and yeah, it's great. So thank you for providing this platform.
Thank you.
Okay.